All right, Peter, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, bro.
Happy birthday to M-List, man.
Yeah, thank you. M-List is turning a year old today.
That's
Today is
awesome.
The first day we posted a car. A year ago, it was a 2006 BMW M5 from California. I remember it was a white one. I'm really thankful for the guy who submitted it. He was very nice.
Yeah. So you want to explain, like, what is M-List and why'd you start doing it?
Absolutely. So M-List is one of my projects. I started it initially just as a hobby. I was inspired by a guy who did all of BMW M's. So M-List essentially is a BMW M marketplace. BMW has a performance department of cars that they call M. So there's a variety of M's, different body styles, M2, M3, M4, M5, and so on. And initially, M-List started off as M5 List. So we only focused on the M5 models, which is my dream car, my favorite model of the BMW family. We started off with that, and at some point during the summer, I decided to make a switch to all M's. I mean, I had people asking me to list other variants of the M family, and I was ready to go. The volume definitely went up, but that's where the fun is.
Got you, yeah. So what inspired you to start it at first? Like, you were just interested in these cars, like you had your dream car, and you were like, what if I had made a business out of it? Like, talk about your thought process at the very beginning.
Absolutely. So, I mean, ever since I was young, I was very, very passionate about cars. Maybe from 11 years old and on, since I learned how to drive my first manual car, I knew that it's gonna be for the rest of the life. It's an addiction at that point. So, like I said, I was inspired by a guy who's doing only M3s, and he's had great success. His name is Spencer Burke. He's had great success, and I figured I would start my own thing. It started in senior year of high school. I was looking for something to do. I knew I wanted to do business. I was ready for college, and I knew I'd have a lot more free time. So I figured I would have to fill it up with something, and I created the project, and that actually helped me a lot with my social media experience, which then resulted in the creation of my media agency and so on.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, what you'll do is you'll list these cars, and like if somebody purchases the car through the listing, will you get like a commission, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean that's for later on in the plans, the commission stuff. Right now, it's entirely free. So let's say you have a BMW M for sale, you submit it with us. We have a huge following of people on social media. We have a website. You submit it on the website. We get it live for you, entirely free. You just fill out an application like you would on any other listing service. Then we get it on our social media. You get exposure on there. Your contact information is right in the bio. It's free. If somebody buys it, cool. We operate on donations. So nothing's required. There's no fees required. Currently, we're in the process of gathering up our affiliates. So a variety of parts companies like carbon fiber parts, interior accessories, whatever for BMW M's that the owners like to dress their cars up with. Variety of performance parts as well. We have a services business becoming our affiliate soon. They are a wrapping company out of Miami. Very good success they're having. So I mean, it's expanding, but it's not a business that I look at as a financial business. Like I said, it's more of a hobby. And I think in businesses like that, you think about the money last. Well, money's of course important, but at the same time, you're just doing it because it's your passion.
Got you. So you're just passionate about these cars. So like I guess I'm going to say, like, what is the benefit if it's not the money, or are you kind of trying to give as much as you possibly can to the people, like to your consumers, so that like down the line you can start, creating a system that is profitable? Like, how do you look at it in terms of like what's the value for you now in terms of this business?
Well, the car community is huge. The car community within itself is a worldwide community. Perhaps it's not as organized by a central institution, but at the same time, it's a humongous organization that acts in common interests on social media, especially. I'm sure you've seen various examples of somebody posting a car. Now in the comments, you have like a whole entire subsection of people who are just passionate about it. So bringing value to the car community is the number one thing. I think it is crucial in any work you do to understand the value you're providing and to understand exactly why you're doing it. So that's a great question. I love that you're asking that. because I think that really what I'm doing is putting out a lot of value out there. And nowadays, it's really rare to see free value. So like I said, we don't charge any money for that. And it takes time out of my day every single day to do it. It took time to build it, takes time to operate it, and it's all on me. It's all manual. So I do think that free value is really what I'm getting a kick out of here.
So you just feel like it's intrinsically valuable to be like one of the only people who's just giving value for free, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in this community. You don't see that often. People try to make money off of cars as much as possible.
Yeah.
Every day, all the time. Parts companies, crazy markups and whatever. But providing free value, especially for cars like BMWs, which I know so many younger people who are just freaking would kill somebody for that car. I think providing them a service in a marketplace like this is really crucial.
So do you think down the line you want to start, turning this into a money-making thing, or for now you're just looking at it as like, this is my hobby now, I'm running with this? Like, what's your attitude?
Yeah, so so far it's been growing organically. And like I said, we operate on donations. And once you're reaching, 100, 200, 300,000 people a month, you will get those donations one way or another. So again, in essence, it's growing on its own. It's like a plant. It's a plant. Yeah, of course I have to water every day, but it's going to sprout. It's going to sprout on its own. And it's not something that I'm in control of. So I'm just I'm very relaxed on its capabilities, and I'm just being patient.
Got you. So have you gotten a lot of donations so far?
We haven't gotten as many as you would imagine. Today, like I said, it's Emily's birthday, and today I woke up this morning to 9,000 followers on Instagram. So on our way to 10,000. And like I said, all of that's organic. It's very difficult, and from somebody who owns a social media marketing agency, I'll tell you right now, it's difficult in 2024 to grow without paid advertisement. So many of these accounts that you see blowing up, they are paying money to Meta or TikTok or whoever these big companies are. They're paying money in order to get pushed out there. And I haven't invested any money into MList in terms of just social media growth. Of course, into the website development and whatnot, but in terms of social media growth, it's all the way it is. And 9,000 followers, I consider that a pretty big milestone.
Congratulations, man. Would you consider like investing money into paid advertisements in the future, or is that something that you're against?
Yeah, so most definitely. We had a donation come in recently, $40. That's considered freaking big on MList standards. $40, and right away that $40 went into the creation. I put together an edit, of just kind of advertising what we do, and then right away I boosted the post, just basically putting money right back into where it came from.
Got you. So you want to talk about the Morning Brew? You want to tell that story? What is Morning Brew, and what was your experience getting featured on this?
Absolutely. So, Morning Brew Daily was one of the biggest highlights of 2023 for me. MList, has been a passion of mine, like I was just saying, and it brought me a lot of connections that I wouldn't otherwise imagine. And I listen to Morning Brew Daily every single morning. Morning Brew Daily is my personal choice for my morning, coffee, morning breakfast, whatever I'm doing. 25 minutes go by like nothing. So I listened to it, and one of the episodes, they were talking about a specific special podcast they're doing where they're going to feature, business and startup ideas for the year, like kind of their pick. So I was like, might as well send them an application and see what happens. So I put together a quick email, kind of explained what I'm doing. MList was the highlight of it. I also included, some of my other projects. And one day I wake up and I check my DMs on MList, and there's a request one where it's not in your general, but it's a request one. And I click on it, and it's a guy who I've never seen before, and he's like, "Hey man, I just saw your feature on Morning Brew Daily. Congratulations!" And I'm like, "What? What did you just say?" So I go on Morning Brew Daily, I check it out. This is the morning. This is like 8 a.m. and those guys are great at putting their stuff out at 6. So I check it, bang. First one, MList, our listener, Peter's like, man, I was ecstatic. I ran around my room like I've never done before. It was such a great time. It was amazing to hear. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I did it. I'm on Morning Brew Daily, and she didn't even know what I'm talking about. But I was very happy. So I guess that was that. I'm very thankful to those guys. That was a huge push in what I do, and it's always nice to have things like that fuel me to keep going, because like I said, there's no financial reimbursement for any of this. So it's all, my passion is dependent on my personal enthusiasm. So, things like that, just they help so much.
Is it hard to stay motivated without the financial reimbursement, or like how do you keep yourself going?
It's not impossible, but I do think it's a lot harder than you would imagine, especially living in America. I'm from Ukraine, where we are a democracy, but we're not as capitalistic in any sense. And I grew up around, you need money here, we'll give it to you. Whatever. Here, you need money, you have to explain to me how you're going to give it back. That's kind of the essential idea of the United States. So, growing up around people who are constantly questioning me, how much money have you made? How much money is it making you? It's not about the money, man. It's not about the money for me at all as of right now. I have other things that bring me money that are for money, like PQR Media. It's a marketing agency. Of course, it's going to be for money. But this is a passion project, and just the motivation. It comes from every day, just seeing it grow. It's like my own plant. That's what I like to call it. Seeing it grow, seeing it develop, seeing it get better every single day. Just that's what pushes me.
Awesome, man. What would you say the biggest challenges that you faced growing this?
The biggest challenge are there are these things I like to call stagnation periods, where you just kind of see a break in your performance. Your follower count stops going up as fast, your views are getting down, your likes are getting... And all that stuff might seem silly at first, but I do have certain milestones that I plan to reach as the project develops and as the project grows. At 10,000, there's a lot of plans. At 50,000, there's a lot of plans, and all that stuff is very realistic. But in any case, once you see it slow down, you kind of start to question yourself. Am I doing something wrong? Hey, I got to take a step back here. I got to take a look at it. What's going on? Those are very difficult to overcome. Those suck. I don't like them. But it is what it is, essentially. I mean, if anything, I look at it as just steps to improvement, because you do get to take a look at it. You get to try different things, and sometimes you're taking a little hit, but then when you figure out what was happening, you explode from there.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up. So there's this book called Mastery by George Leonard, and he has this graph where it's like what mastery looks like in terms of like time and development. And basically, like, what people tend to think of growth as just like a linear line that's just like diagonal going straight up. But his point is that often it looks like this. It's like it goes up a little bit, plateau, goes down a little bit, goes up, plateau, down, up, and there's a ton of fluctuation. And yeah, I think it's psychologically there are challenges that come along with that, because even if over the long-term time horizon you're seeing growth, in the short term, if it's choppy, it's like it's going up and down, it can be difficult to kind of deal with that, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Like I noticed that as a basketball player, or I feel like the gym is a good example of that, where like you might be making progress and then you plateau.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have a couple days where you're not pushing the weight that you want to be pushing.
Yeah.
And it's like as a basketball player, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I played basketball in high school. Like I was a big basketball player, and like I would track my shooting percentages in practice, and oh my god, the amount of fluctuation that would happen is crazy. Like I'd have a day where it's like 70%, 40%, 60%, 50%, 65%, and it just goes up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
And it's like I could see that happening in the business world. We good?
Yeah. Yeah, we're good. We were recording this whole time.
Good.
Just making noises.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, I could see that happening in the business world as well, where it's like, or especially on social media, where like you get a lot of views on one post and then the next post less so.
This idea, man, I love it. I love this idea. I noticed it while I was like in my late teens. I heard it somewhere as well. I'm not sure if it was the book you're referring to or if it was something else, but it was this psychology video I was watching. And they were talking about how, us humans, we're very short-term beings. We look at just the things that are right in front of us. And I do agree with that. I think, especially with like danger or negative things, we never understand how impactful they can be until they're just like right here.
Yeah.
right in front of us, right in front of our vision. If they're anywhere over there, we don't worry about it. That doesn't have to do anything with us.
Well, evolutionarily, that would make sense, right?
It
Because
would.
the people who survived are the ones who could spot threats and avoid them.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I think this carries into like an energy space. I'm a big believer in the fact that each of us has this big ray of energy just going up into infinity, and I think our thoughts kind of make up the color of this beam of energy, and depending on that is how our life is going to be shaped. But point is, this process that you're explaining of progress, stagnation, down, even more progress, I think that can be taken into something like your entire life. Your entire life, I mean, if you think of your life on a linear scale, good for you. I guess you're comfortable, but I don't think that's the case for most people. Like I said, we look at things that are directly in front of us. So if you're having 2 bad days in a row, you're almost colliding, man. You're thinking shit's bad, and it's going to continue to go that way. But in reality, it's crucial. It's crucial to understand that this is the exact preparation for the launch that you've been waiting for your goals to be fulfilled. And that's just the way it works, because I look at it as if you're being tested, whether or not you're worthy of what you're asking for. We all ask for stuff. We all ask for things to have. I want $1 million. You want $1 million. You want a million people listening to this pod. And hey, man, so do I. But at the same time, you're going to be tested on whether or not. If you're really passionate, if you're really enthusiastic about something you're doing, you're going to get tested. Because believe me, it ain't as easy sitting here where we are now and then sitting here when we have $1 million.
Yeah.
Of anything we want. $1 million seems to be I'm just using it as an example. But you're going to be tested, and you're going to be tried, and that's just kind of, whether or not you want to look at it as God or the universe or whatever you believe in. But that's whatever it is, it's testing you, whether or not you deserve it, and just sees, what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, do you believe in God, or do you just view it as like these are just the random tests that the universe is throwing at me?
I believe in God, but I don't particularly, in the recent years, months, I guess, I don't like the idea of religion and trying to seek God in religion. I think, the general idea is that we're all children of God. Okay, let's talk about that. We're all children of God. So if you're a child of somebody, that means a part of them is in you. And if God is this infinite, amazing, everything, whole being that's just capable of doing anything and everything because he is the creator, does that not make you God as well? I mean, theoretically speaking, it would, right? If we're just talking about human biology and how we work, and if you want to use this theory from religion, I think that's how it would be. So if you are God, you're able to almost manifest your own reality. Mm-hmm. Because if you're the creator, I just think of it like this is a good way to look at it, to understand kind of my outlook. You can be the creator, you are the creator, but because you're not God in his wholeness, you take a lot longer to create something from just your thoughts, right? So let's say you want to be successful in a certain field. Let's take a lawyer. You just graduated law school, okay? And you got hired to a firm. If you want to become a senior associate, let's say, and you're starting off small, you will, and you will do it better than everybody else, but it will take longer. If you're devoted to it, if you're 100% sure that's what you want to do, if you found your right path, if it feels good in your heart, you don't feel any anxiety about that thought when you think of it, it feels good to you, it feels empowering, I shit you not, you're gonna reach it. 100% you're gonna reach it, but it might take longer. And the problem is that a lot of people, they give up a little too early. They're just not patient. I think patience, and what people mean when they say patience is key, is particularly this. Because there's so many things in this world that we do, even on a daily basis, that we just give up on way too quickly. Mm-hmm. If you just, it's like the gambler's sentence. Every gambler quits before they win. It's just like that. It's almost like a gamble, but you're not waiting enough.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to someone who's like going through one of those droughts or one of those stagnation periods? Like, how do you stay motivated or stay disciplined? And if someone's thinking about quitting, what do you tell them?
I can't guarantee this is going to work for everybody, but this definitely works for me, and I would imagine it would work for the majority of people. But it's just this idea that the confidence that you get when you tell yourself and you convince yourself 100% that this is, I'm looking for the word, but this is like the preface to all of the success you were asking for, or at least the short term, whatever you were asking for. But you were asking for something. I think majority of us have certain goals, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whatever it could be. It could be on a very small scale. It could be on a very big scale. But anything you were asking for, like I said, you're just being tested, and you have to make sure to stay yourself, remain yourself, and know that this is going to be over very soon, and what you're going to get in return is 5 times more than what you were asking for. I think it's impossible to have a good life without bad moments. You will not be able to distinguish good from bad if there's no bad. It's such a simple idea that we fail to understand that it's essential. It is essential for us to feel like crap sometimes, just to feel so good when it's all over. Think of it like this. You're in winter in Newark, New Jersey. It's gray. It's awful. It's terrible. You go outside, you don't know what to do with yourself. And then
Binghamton, New York.
In Binghamton, New York, even better, where every day you forget that sun exists in this world. But you wait for that month. You feel like crap for that month. Not like fully like crap, but you feel more sad than you would in the summer.
Fully like crap.
and then bang, March comes around. You get a plane to Dominican Republic, and brother man, let me tell you, it is the best feeling in the whole wide world. But back to my point, you would not be able to feel as good as you would in this particular case if you were, let's say, in Miami the entire winter, where you have the sun, where you have the palm trees, where you have your ocean, where you're enjoying yourself every day, and you go to DR, the difference ain't quite really there.
Yeah.
So it's huge for you to feel like shit, to feel good. I think that's the key.
So I want to just harken back to your idea about viewing the tough times as a test. Have you ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
No, I haven't.
You would like this one. So basically, he's a psychologist in Nazi Germany, and he ends up in a concentration camp. And basically, this whole book is how he dealt with the psychological challenges of being in like the worst hell that exists. And it's really, really, it's deep, but it's really interesting the way that he articulates these ideas. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about is like, and it's crazy to even think about because he's in such an awful circumstance, but he still does what you're saying, which is he views it as a test of his character. In the worst of hell, he says, he views it as a test, and he thinks about his wife, and he uses that as like, this is his purpose. And that's kind of what inspires him or motivates him to keep going. And because there are people who are committing suicide in these camps, obviously, but he uses the fact that it's a test, and he uses the fact that he needs to see his wife again as like ways to stay motivated. Mm-hmm. So great book. Definitely check it out. But yeah, I mean, if he can do it in that circumstance, then I definitely think that whoever's listening can, if they have a business or some passion project that they're working on where there are, periods that suck, I'm sure that, that mindset can be useful to them because it was useful to someone who is in like one of the worst hells that the world has to offer. Yeah. So, but yeah, you should definitely check that book out, dude. I think you would love it.
I think that's a great way to look at it. I mean, especially the idea about, needing to see his wife, because you have to understand that the most powerful thing that you have, the most powerful tool in your toolkit as a human being is your heart. Okay, and we don't understand this until, I think until we're about 20-something. We don't understand exactly what our heart wants, and we don't know how to listen to it.
What is your heart in this circumstance? Like, obviously not like, because I assume you're not talking about like the heart that's like pumping in your chest. Like, what?
Some call it the gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Some call it like, look at it this way. Let's say you're thinking about a situation. Let's say you're going on a jet. You're going on a plane, and you really feel anxiety. You've never felt anxiety before going on a plane, but you're feeling it now. I think your heart's trying to tell you something. I think your heart's trying to tell you something. It may be bad, it may be a false signal, but it's trying to tell you something, because I think the heart doesn't think like our mind. I think the heart and the mind are two separate things. I think it is essential to distinguish them. There's me referencing the book called Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland, which is a super powerful book. It's long, 800-some pages, but it is incredibly powerful. And there he talks about the most powerful combination of thought that can be in this world is the unity of heart and mind. If you're able to silence your mind, because your mind, let's say you're picking a phone, okay? Let's say you have 4 iPhones in front of you, black, gold, red, and silver. You look at them, the first instance, you know which one you want, okay? Your heart's like, yo, red. I want the red. But your mind's like, okay, slow down. Well, with the black, we're going to look better when we wear black. With the silver, we can, it's going to look more shiny. With the gold, it looks, better when you're in Dubai. Let's call that, okay? But all of these choices are false choices. It is not what you personally want. You can get the black, you can get the silver, you can get the gold. But in reality, what was yours in this particular case is the red, because that is entirely what you wanted. So if you look at the red, it feels good to you. It's very difficult when you're overfilled with emotions to really listen to your heart, because emotions, I think they play in your mind. But let's say that first choice, like you're taking a test, okay, and true or false, and you may be hesitant, but that hesitation comes from your mind. In reality, you know the answer. Your heart knows the answer. I bet you've had those situations where you thought it was A, but you click B because you convinced yourself it's B, and then it was A.
I've erased the right answer, circled the wrong one too many times to count.
That's the mind playing games, because the mind thinks it's the most all-knowing thing, it's the most powerful thing, but in reality, it is very deceiving. So I think listening to your heart is very important.
Yeah. But I will say, though, I think there are times when our intuition kind of leads us astray. So how do you kind of reconcile the fact that, our mind is flawed, but our intuition can also be flawed in some circumstances? So, how do you kind of navigate this, that sort of tension?
Yeah. I think it is, impossible to only be right. And that's just back to what we were just talking about. You can't always be right. It's not how it's going to work. You're not going to learn anything. It is essential for you to be wrong in order to learn how it feels and learn, some about the thing. If we're going into this, and if we're going into the comparison of the mind and the heart being right, like let's say your intuition leading in the wrong direction, you can't say it's the wrong direction, because if you do believe in this in particular, that your intuition should always be right, then it is always right, even when it appears wrong, because there is no right and wrong. I don't think that exists. I don't think right and wrong exists anywhere outside of our mind. I think right and wrong are entirely humanity, society-based principles that, think about it. A kid doesn't know what's right and wrong. It's not because they're not taught yet, but because it shouldn't exist. It doesn't exist in a child's raw mind. What's right and wrong? There's only what I want. Right? What I want is right. And I think a lot of people have this issue where they do certain things or they don't do certain things, and now they put this idea of that being right or wrong onto their actions, and then they blame themselves for that. I think that's freaking awful. I think you should 100% be always comfortable with what you do and what you did and what you will do, because you're right. And what other people say doesn't matter. That's them. You're the only one who knows why you did it, and who knows, whatever. It could be damaging to you or your financial side or your emotional or whatever. But it's the right thing to do, and it's what should have been done. And I think even when the intuition is wrong, I think it's right, because that's just it's always of benefit. I think it's always of benefit. I think every situation. And this is such a stigmatized approach that every situation happens for the better, and people have talked about that forever, and this idea of optimism, I think it's so ran through already, but it is so powerful, and so many of us don't take advantage of it. It is so simple. It is the simplest thing to do, to just constantly look for things that make you happy, that make you feel good. Okay, and we're just, for some reason, especially I feel like our generation, we're looking for things that are not good, for things that could possibly go wrong. And we're just these stubborn realists who, somebody's telling you something, you correct them right away. because you got to make sure everything's right, everything's perfectly set up. I don't think that's good. I think you should only worry about what's happening to you, and again, everything that happens to you really is for the better.
Interesting. So, what does it mean you talked about in the book how the author was saying you want to unify heart and mind. What does that look like, and how do you achieve it?
It's not an easy process, and I can't say I've perfectly achieved any of this stuff. It is such a constant fight with your own mind. It sucks. It's terrible, but it's. He claims that you can't convince yourself of anything. He claims that you can only know stuff, and it's very hard when you try. The unification of the heart and mind. Essentially, what it is this feeling that you get from your gut about certain decisions that you have to make. Being, like taking action upon it. So you feel it, you don't want to do it. Let's say your boys are like, hey, let's go out tomorrow. And you start feeling anxiety. Right away it kicks. It's like, you feel like a little nervous. And you're like, yeah, let's go. And you go with them, and now you're even more anxious during that. You don't know why. There's no reason for you to be anxious. It's just another night out. Okay? But you go out with them, and some bad shit happens. Somebody gets hit by a car. I don't know. Somebody gets punched, stabbed, whatever. Some bad shit happens. That was your heart trying to tell you shouldn't go. So the unification would happen when it would tell you, and you wouldn't question why it's telling you no. You just take it as a no, and you don't go. Okay? And then even if nothing bad happens, you don't know. Maybe it could have happened if you went, because if you went, now the course of events would have been totally different. It's a very specific way to look at things, and this is definitely not for everybody to look at it this way, but for me it's worked, and I am freaking fascinated by the way it works every time. Just since I've started listening to my heart and doing things the way I want to do them, man, life has become so much easier, and good things are just coming my way, and I'm so grateful for it. But it's all in that. It's all in knowing what you want to do as opposed to what you're being told to do.
Yeah. How do you distinguish between, like, because sometimes the anxiety before doing something, like you use the example of going out, but just in general, like, I am so happy that I started this podcast, but like I was telling you before, there was some anxiety before starting it. So how do you distinguish between the anxiety of my heart's telling me not to do this versus the anxiety of, like, this is supposed to be here before I start something? I know it's kind of a tough question, but...
No, it's a very good question. It's a very good question, because anxiety can come from the heart and anxiety can come from the mind.
Ah.
Okay,
so how do you distinguish between whether it's coming from, like, your soul and your energy? Or
yeah, so when you really want to do something, let's say you really want to start your pod, and you know it's your passion, but there are these things in your mind that don't allow you to. Maybe my friends will make fun of me. Maybe somebody will not find it appropriate. Maybe it's not going to hit, and I'm going to waste my time. All of these, borders are created by your mind. As soon as you break, like, you don't even have to break through them. You just jump over them. You're like, yo, you're my fucking mind. Shut the fuck up. You're just supposed to act, okay? You're supposed to do what the heart tells you. The second you do that, first of all, your anxieties are dropping, okay? Second of all, the way you deal with it, the way you would know it's your heart telling you to do something is you feel passion for it regardless of these mind blocks that you're getting. You're telling yourself, man, no, I shouldn't do this, but you still want to do it. That's how you know it's yours. You found what you were looking for. Now, with the mind thing, the way you overcome these things is you allow yourself to feel them. For me personally, before every interview I have or before any public speech, I feel so anxious, I'm almost turning pale. I don't know why. I love speaking, I love talking, but I guess I just haven't had enough experience with it. But I get really nervous. And what I found very useful to do is just allow myself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel it, and then what happens is you naturally just turn it into excitement. Now you're pumped as hell, man. You're ready to go, because you allow yourself. It's this idea, again, that you instill in your mind that you should be calm when you're presenting, you shouldn't be anxious.
It's bullshit.
It's what your mind wants you to do. It's what people in your life have told you should do. What you should do is what you want to do. You want to feel anxious? Feel anxious. Have at it. Freaking have a blast.
I think it's also, are you into meditation at all?
Yeah, I do meditate.
Big philosophy of meditation. Just let the thoughts flow. Let yourself feel what you want to feel. Yeah, I mean, this sort of philosophy got kind of baked into my head as an athlete, and I also apply it to my podcast. I apply it to tests. Whenever I'm anxious before these things, in the past, I was like, damn, I need some cure. Like, I need to stop feeling anxious. You know, like, because people would tell me, like, don't be so anxious about it. Don't be so nervous. Like, but then I sort of came to the conclusion, like, I can feel anxious and still take the test or do the podcast or play the game. You know, it doesn't, like, the greatest athletes, intellectuals, public speakers, like, a lot of them still get nervous before they perform. But the difference is that anxiety doesn't really hinder them. You know, because they're okay with feeling that. They let the feeling sit, but they distinguish between feeling and action, and they focus on their actions and they let the feelings coexist with optimal performance.
I think these feelings have a lot of power in what they can do. Let's take on a topic of celebrities and athletes. Okay, why can't you, okay, somebody who's so passionate about basketball, about athleticism, and so on, be playing in the NBA right now? Okay, if we're saying that, you know, you can allow yourself to feel it, and you can basically reach any goal you want as long as you you know, think of it and manifest it in your head. Why doesn't it happen? You know, let's say I've been thinking about, you know, being an NBA star this whole time, and it's just not happening, and now I'm here. I'm not an NBA star. Okay. I think a lot of people, what they do is they allow these feelings to go way too far. Okay, they go so far to the point where not only do you feel nervous or anxious about a certain idea, and it's an idea, it's not even the situation you're participating in. Let's say you're thinking about being an NBA star and you're just terrified of it. Okay, you're just like, shit, dude, what would I do if I was put on the field right now? You know, it doesn't feel like it belongs with you. First of all, that's a sign that that's not your I think that's just not your field to be in. And also, I think a lot of people, you know, want things, but they can't imagine themselves doing it. A lot of people want to be celebrities, but if they're offered an opportunity, they'd be like, no. You know, to become a celebrity, you have to have a certain, like, you have to look like something. You have to be beautiful. I'm not beautiful. You know, to become a celebrity, you have to have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money. You know, to become a celebrity, I have to have an agent. I don't have an agent. But the opportunity is right there. Take it.
Yeah.
No, I can't because, you know, I don't have all these attributes that you need. Who the hell says you need all this stuff? Nobody says that. All the stuff you need to achieve, you can't possibly know the route to your goal. You cannot know what way it's going to take you. All you have to worry about is the goal. If you want to be a celebrity, it doesn't matter if you're going to do it through finding somebody in a basement of a New York City club or if you're going to do it, you know, at a ranch somewhere in Texas. Your path is going to be different. And that's okay. You can't know your path. Another thing about the mind is that it always instills these ideas in our head that, you know, if you want to reach your goal, this is what you got to do. If you want, you know, 1 million followers, this is what you have to do. This is exactly what the mind tells you. No, that's not what you have to do. What you have to do is what feels right, and all you have to do is focus on the goal. The opportunities will come up on their own. That is none of your business, none of your control. You cannot possibly know the route to your goal. I can't stress that enough. It's unbelievable how many people like have the opportunity right in front of them and they don't take it because it doesn't fit their scenario in their head.
So basically, your idea is that, correct me if I get this wrong, the mind kind of constructs these patterns about if X, then Y, basically. If I have this goal, I have to do this, this, and this because it's kind of the most logical thing to do.
Yeah.
But your idea is that, no, life is too unpredictable for that. Shit pops up. There's you don't know what is going to happen down the road. So you should just focus on you. You should focus on what feels right, kind of like you call it the heart. Some people call it probably the soul, yeah. I'd imagine. But you should just go with your gut, go with what you're passionate about, and don't question it. Just find your passion, stick to it, and you know you never know what's going to happen. But it's possible that opportunities are probable. I'd imagine you'd argue that opportunities are just going to pop up if you focus on what your intuition is telling you, what your soul, heart, whatever you want to call it, is wherever that force is guiding you. Mm-hmm. Don't question it, stick to it, and the opportunities will come on their own.
Precisely. I think, like I said, it's impossible to know the route to your goal. your mind can be so deceiving, right? These scenarios that it creates, it always wants to be right. It can never accept defeat. It can never allow you the luxury of being wrong. It cannot, because it doesn't fit its scenario. Some people would call this their ego, but you have a certain picture of yourself and how you portray yourself. This can be spotted so simply. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you to yourself look totally different than how you look to other people. Okay,
Totally.
if you ever saw yourself looking at yourself in the mirror, and then you get recorded talking to somebody like out in public, totally unnoticed, you don't even recognize yourself. You're like, who the hell is that guy? I've never seen him before. You look so different, and that's just this idea that you have in your head of how you have to act. I think this gets carried over into the workplace a lot. With a lot of adults, you can see they take their role in this world way too serious. They forget that it's just a game. I don't think anything has changed since we were like 6 years old, running around playing games, imagining scenarios in our head, playing doctor, playing police.
That's a very kind of reassuring, empowering way to view life, because I feel like people have a problem with taking things too seriously. I think I also think there are people on the other end of the spectrum who don't really take anything seriously, but I think a lot of people take things too seriously. Like, they view life as like, maybe more, or certain things about life as potentially more serious than they have to be, if that makes sense. Like, there are certain things that, and I definitely struggle with this, like I get too in my own head, too wrapped up in the projects that I have going on.
Yeah.
And I kind of forget that so much of this is just a game, and I'm not necessarily saying life is all a game, but I think there are game-like qualities to it that we forget sometimes, because there's such a hard line between what we call a game and what we call life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think the biggest problem with that is when you encounter scenarios that shouldn't be treated like that, right? Like we see a lot of this in the movies, but I think it happens even more in real life, where a father, has a very important job, and he has a lot of expectations out of him, and because of that, he ends up instilling this idea that what he does is incredibly important, and it's such a serious matter. So when he comes home, instead of switching from this work mode, he remains in it, and he portrays the same things to his wife, to his kids, and they end up growing up in this hostile environment where they're just not getting the love out of the man who birthed them, in a sense, and they're just not getting what they deserve, almost, in my opinion. I think it is impossible to show your real love and show your real character when you're just instilled in this role of the game, right? I mean, let's talk about the definition of the character. Everybody has a character. What is that? Let's look at it. Imagine it from a video game perspective. You have a character, I have a character. It's a character we're playing every day. To ourselves, to our loved ones, to our workplace, to everything. We play a character. You have to, at points in your day, I think, not even in your life, but in points in your day, just wake up, okay, and see what the hell you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's the real you, in my opinion. When you do this, when you just tell yourself to wake up, okay, what am I doing right now? Why am I? What's the purpose of this? We get so entranced by so many things. We're doing things we don't even know why we're doing them sometimes, right? We're just doing things with no purpose, and I think that's very damaging to us as humanity, as human species.
So basically, the idea is keep the big picture at the front of your mind, and keep your purpose at the front of your mind, and don't get so wrapped up in the mundane, small tasks, and kind of let your emotions carry you into the I don't want to say, or I guess the smaller, maybe more troublesome, anxiety-provoking moments of your day, rather than being so wrapped up in the kind of moment to moment. See the big picture, see what I guess the broader story of your life. Would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, what is anxiety? What is depression? What are the feelings of being down? They are a continuous observation of negative thought. Okay, so you have one bad experience, and you focus on it too much. Next up is two bad experiences. You notice them, now it's four. and it's just going in this vicious line of just constant bad. Okay, constant terrible.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is probably threat perception. Like you're perceiving these moments that appear as threats for whatever reason.
Yes, but they can so easily be inflated by your mind.
Oh, of course. I think a lot of the time, your mind makes it seem more threatening than it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, this is what damages a lot of people. It's this ability of not being able to click out. It can be very simply solved when you think of the idea of life as a mirror, okay, and your thoughts being what the mirror shows, and the mirror being a little delayed. So like, think of it: you're standing in front of a mirror and you're looking at yourself, okay, and you're smiling, and then you drop the smile, and at the mirror, what it's showing you is you're still smiling for another like 2 minutes. Okay, if you're just doing this with no phone, with no distractions, 2 minutes is a relatively long time.
Wait, so the mirror represents your thoughts?
The mirror represents your thoughts, but it is delayed in what it shows, in its reflection. So what it reflects is delayed on what is in front of it. Okay, so like I said, you drop the smile, and now you're waiting for 2 minutes for the mirror to represent you with no smile. But now if you leave, right, if you're not patient enough, and if you leave, now the mirror is going to show nothing. And the mirror is going to still show that face with a smile. Just like your thoughts, okay? If you're thinking everything's bad, that's what the mirror is going to show. Okay? And when
even if everything's good, but your thoughts are basically a lagging measure of what's actually going on.
Exactly. And what happens is you expect immediate change. And this is the problem that we're facing nowadays with so many, resources of instant gratification and instant pleasure and just instant everything. Your phone's fast. Your life is fast. Things are moving fast. And you expect your thoughts to also be realized fast. That's not how it's going to work. Like I said, this is an observed principle, and there's been multiple studies on this, where if you think of something and you remain with it and you're patient enough, it will realize itself. Okay? There was a study of a lady in somewhere in Seattle. Okay, and she would go to her psychiatrist every day, and she would talk about this bug that she saw in her dream. It was this green bug. She would explain it in detail, and she didn't know why, but it kept bothering her. This bug kept bothering her, and she would talk about it for weeks on end, and the psychiatrist didn't even know what to do at that point. He was trying to explain to her that this was just a dream, this is nothing serious, but she would continuously talk about this bug. This bug would be on her mind. One day, they're sitting in this office, and the doctor hears something hit the window from the outside. Okay, and he opens the window, he looks at it, and it is this precise bug she's been talking about. Okay, this precise bug flies in. You don't know how to help her. They put her on medicine. She's still talking about this bug. This bug flies into the window. He takes it. He shows her, here's your bug. That lady, all of her problems were solved instantly. I mean, it sounds interesting, but the actual bug she's been describing hit the window, and this is a recorded study. You can look it up. The bug hit her window, and he showed her the bug, and basically her entire diagnosis just dissolved, because the bug she was talking about was right there in front of her. But that's just a representation of the idea that if you think enough about something, it's going to be realized. It's going to be realized one way or another. But you can't be forcefully doing it. You cannot be forcefully doing it. It's either yours or it's not yours. And that's just the idea of whether or not you're on the right path.
Yeah, I mean, let me know if this relates. I was just talking to someone. I was talking to someone on the last podcast that I haven't posted yet that I was telling you about like how to know if you're passionate about something. Like, how do you recognize when the feeling of passion is there? And I think it seems to me that a huge indicator of this feeling of passion is like, does your mind just start thinking about it even when you're not even like trying to concentrate on the thing? So if I'm very passionate about like working out, I'll start to notice that like naturally my mind is just thinking about lifting. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like work, it just starts thinking about it. What do you think of that idea?
I think there's importance in distinguishing short-term passion and long-term passion. So, I mean, we have a lot of short-term passions that hit us every day. Like, for example, for me, for the last week, I've just been obsessed with watches. Okay, watches. Yeah. Then, like, a month ago, I was obsessed with, like, Teslas. And it's just these things that dissipate over time. Okay? And those are fine, because those you can't do much about.
So how do you distinguish between the short-term and the long-term ones?
Yeah. So the way you would is if only with time, in my opinion, right? If time goes by and you know, and it's still a passion of yours, despite so many events already occurring in your life, that means it's a longer term. That means it's yours. That means it's really yours. But I would argue that even these shorter term, hobbies, if you want to call them, the shorter term interests, they are still yours. They're still the right route for you to follow. Maybe, you could call them opportunities in a sense. And I think everything can be looked at from like an entrepreneurial standpoint as well. I think, any passion that you have can be turned into a business.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's that simple though. Once you feel interest in something and you pursue it a little bit and then you feel even more interest, I think that's yours.
Yeah.
That's your way.
So, but don't you think there's kind of like a tension between following whatever your heart tells you to follow while also like kind of staying on the path that you chose to take? Like, do you think that those two desires kind of conflict? Because like, let's say like, to use this podcast as an example, like this is something that I've decided I want to take seriously over a long period of time. But what if like some like maybe short-term interest pops up? Like I get very into cars, right? How do I distinguish, or I get very into boxing or something? Like how do I distinguish between like, should I follow this even though it might take me away from my long-term thing? Or like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question because of how multi-sided it is. I think here you would not rely on your mind. Okay, your mind is initially the one that decided that the podcast is going to be a long-term thing. Okay, your heart is the one that found interest in the shorter-term thing. Okay, it would be your heart that makes the decision. Okay, and it would be your heart because, like I said, your heart doesn't think, your heart knows. Your heart either will say yes or no or maybe, right? Okay, and unless it says yes, it's a no. So in that case, I think it would naturally occur to you, right, that let's say the shorter term thing brings more value to you. Okay, now it would make sense to your heart and your mind, and now you find this unity, and it would take you in the right direction once your heart and mind come together, because your heart and mind came together on the podcast already. Can they come together in a greater essence on this new idea? Whether or not that occurs, whether or not it makes more sense to you, in very simple terms, will decide if that's the new way. Because you can't blame yourself for taking a new way. You can't, because that's, like I said, you cannot possibly know the route to your.
Well, what if I'm worried that like in the new direction I might like be interested in doing it, but I don't think it's going to pan out, and I think the original idea is more likely to be something that succeeds.
Yeah, so you stick with what makes you feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think being comfortable is essential in this world. We're not talking about sitting on your ass doing nothing. You have to push yourself. Like I said, that's essential to feel good. You can't feel good without feeling like crap. But the idea of in situations like that, you just choose what's more comfortable to you.
Yeah, well, it is comfort over the long term, and I think the reason people say you don't sit on your ass and do nothing is because, well, it's comfortable in the short term.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it is most likely going to lead to more discomfort.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I think you would eliminate what you're aiming for. Okay, if let's say you're aiming for something financial. Okay, you imagine yourself doing it in 5 years with no money involved. Can you do it? If it's a no, then it's probably you're not passionate enough about it. If it's a yes, then cool, go for it. But at the same time, if it's something else, let's say not money, let's say you're doing it for the passion. If now you imagine yourself, if I make enough connections in this field, if I meet enough people, if it has to do with meeting people, if not, whatever. But basically, whatever you're trying to achieve with it, imagine yourself without it, and see if you could do it in 5, 10, 15 years from now, depending where you are. But if you could, then that's right, because you can do it under any condition in that case. And I think that's how you really find what's yours in this world. If you can do stuff without whatever you're aiming for, that's your route.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Yeah. All right. So do you want to
Is it is it still going?
Yeah. All right, good. Let's talk about PQR a little bit. So what are you doing? What are you doing with PQR? You want to explain?
Yeah, so PQR Media, it's a digital marketing agency. Started off by accident, to be honest with you. We currently are going in a new direction of pursuing hotel businesses and being entirely a hotel social media marketing firm. What we do is content creation, mainly for social media. Could be for your website, could be for you, whatever type of content creation. We take care of that. And then, of course, as the name suggests, we do full media management of your social platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. I think it's crucial for businesses in 2024 and beyond to be on these platforms if they want to attract a younger audience. And, even not younger. I mean,
everyone's on social media at this point. Yeah.
I heard yesterday something like a third of the entire population of humans on Earth is on Instagram. And 72% of those people are under 32, which is actually really interesting.
Wait, say it again?
72% of people on the entire Earth are on Instagram. And, no, hold on. I'm losing myself here. A third of the population of the planet Earth, of humans, is on Instagram.
Yeah.
Majority of those people are from India, but 72% are under 32 years old.
Wow. Why are there so many? I feel like that means that there are a lot of
young people on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But you have to keep in mind that it's a third of the Earth we're talking.
Yeah.
So out of that third, it's that 70.
Okay, I guess that would make sense. Because
Yeah.
if the average lifespan is 80-something, 90-something.
I might have messed up my numbers. I'm thinking about. I'm not
No, but
repeating numbers.
The point is there are a lot of people on social media. So,
There's a shitload of people on social media, and if you're a business, I think it is huge. It is huge to be on there and get it done right. Currently, we focus on more of a local side of things because we're still a little bit smaller, but our services are going up. Like last week, we secured a new team member who's taking care of web development. So we're going to be able to do your websites and website management and whatnot. So the services business is very interesting. I like it a lot because you're very flexible with services. You're not selling a product as you would imagine it to be. You're selling a service. So obviously there's so much flexibility with things like pricing, with things like what you're offering in particular and how you can do it, and so on. So that's kind of why I enjoy it. To go back to how it started, though, I used to work at this organization locally called, I used to live in a town called Fort Lee, New Jersey. That's where I went to high school and kind of grew up at when I moved to America. But it was the Fort Lee Regional Chamber of Commerce. And I'm not sure if any of your listeners are aware, but the Chamber of Commerce is an organization that originated back in the early 20th century, and they would take care of local business. Initially started off as an advocate for local business, so local businesses would address any ideas they had for improvement, and the Chamber of Commerce would advocate them on a local, municipal, whatever level. Slowly, it started developing into an organization that takes care of local networking for a variety of business owners. So let's say you have a pizza shop, your name is Joe, and you go to a Fort Lee Chamber of Commerce networking event, and you meet Mike there. So now Joe and Mike are talking. Mike has a delivery business. Joe has a pizza shop. Joe doesn't currently offer delivery. So Joe meets Mike. They start talking. They incorporate each other's service. Now they got a pizza and delivery business. It's a win-win for the both of them. So networking is really where they are now. And I initially started off as an intern there during the summer before my senior year, and then an entire senior year I ended up working as an assistant to the director at the chamber, and I would take care of things like event planning, regular office tasks, member satisfaction. It was a mix of a lot of things, but primarily what it helped me with is connect with business owners in town, and it was a fundamental experience to me in America as an immigrant to see how local municipalities work and how local community operates. It was very, very interesting to me. Particularly because I've never seen stuff like that before. I mean, the way it works elsewhere in the world, and my experience was in Ukraine, is totally different. You definitely get to see a lot of new things when you get involved in a community, and I think it's a field that's dying off recently. especially with our generation. That's why you see a lot of politicians, that are older in age, and even on your local level, a lot of people are older just because it's not as interesting to the younger generation.
Why are they? Is it because their networking is more through media?
I don't think it's a lot in social media. I think COVID. I do blame COVID a lot for this.
So basically, older generations are more. They have a more social disposition, basically.
They do because of the experience they've had in the past, and people our age. I mean, you can notice this just hanging out with people, how much more difficult it is to spark a conversation with someone nowadays. You like feel nervous yourself. You're like, shit, what's gonna happen? You start questioning it. But just to get back on topic here, I met on accident. I was walking out of the office one day. I would end at 6:00, and I'm walking out, and right under us was one of our members. His name is Doug Feldman. Doug has a senior home care agency called Home Helpers, and he asked me if I know anybody who could run his Instagram. Very simple question. I was like, yeah, I didn't take notes of the question. I was like, I'll ask around. I was thinking maybe I'll ask one of my friends if they want to do it. And at the time,
you were interning at Chamber of Congress.
This was during the school year.
Okay, got it.
This was during the school year, so I was already the assistant to the director at the chamber. And he, I was like, I might as well ask one of my friends. And at the time, I had M-List going already. So I had fundamental experience on Instagram. M-List was some like 2,500 followers, which was already freaking big. I mean, to get it from nothing, mind you, I started the page with zero. So all the strategies I made, all the things I tested, they were all kind of my know-hows. And, I sit in my car. It was a little walk from the chamber, from the office to the parking lot. I sit in my car. I'm thinking to myself, like, Instagram? Shit, I do Instagram. I have M-List, so I might as well run it. So I took a few phone calls. I called a few people I know who are in a similar field, asked around about pricing, made myself a price list, and I was like, I emailed him the next day. I was like, hey, dog, actually, I could do it. Let's try it. So I charged him like a super low price, nothing serious, just to kind of get it off its feet. And I started taking care of his social media strategy, started taking care of his planning of our goal for the month. It was just, your marketing stuff. I mean, I never studied a single bit of marketing. I was in the Academy of Finance in high school, but it was more like, accounting, global finance. It was a really like corporate style class, but nonetheless, it taught me a lot. And I think a lot of those skills I applied here, but I just kind of had this like natural inclination to understanding how it works and what it's going to do, which really helped me with Dog. Yeah.
So then how did you grow it from there?
Yeah, it was, again, it was very, very natural, which is like another thing. I think if you're in the right field, things just happen to you. Things just happen to you without particular effort on your side. You're just doing what's required, what you were imagining you were going to do, and then the rest just happens on its own. You don't have to worry about it. So the next client was actually my business teacher, who taught me business freshman year. He currently, at that time, this was spring, maybe around March, April, and one of my good friends was involved in a NFT project. That teacher's name is Chris Delafob. He has a French bulldog obsession. He likes his French bulldogs, and at the time, I knew about French bulldogs, but I definitely wasn't involved. So Chris was like, we need somebody to run our Twitter. Because they had my friend Ivan run the Discord. They had another guy who actually graduated at that time. He was a fresh graduate from high school, Sebi. He ran their TikTok, and I believe Ivan was in charge of Instagram at that time and Discord. Sebi was doing TikTok, and I was doing Twitter. Okay, and that's before Twitter was X, so don't correct me on that. And I started taking care of Twitter. No previous experience with Twitter at all. Of course I bullshit. I was like, yeah, man, I've done multiple Twitter accounts. Of course, great experience with Twitter. Yeah. It was complete bullshit. But I figured it wouldn't be too difficult. So I got into Twitter, and I basically implemented my Instagram strategy into it, which I can break to your listeners. It's just when you start off as a zero, follower account, you just start following people of the similar pages. Like you find, let's say a French Bulldog page, you find other French Bulldog pages, you click on their followers, and you just start following their followers. I mean, the idea is very simple. If they like it, they're going to like your page. And then you just stay consistent. So I grew its Twitter from 0 to 1,000 followers, I think in less than 3 months. By the end of the school year, during graduation, we had 1,000 followers. It was fascinating. I mean, I've never seen a Twitter account grow that fast. Unless you're like a celebrity, of course. But just a French Bulldog account? Come on. So, yeah, great success with that. And then things started happening. He didn't like how my buddy was doing the Instagram. And then he was like, can you do the Instagram? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then, I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? Let me call this a media agency. I got 2 clients. I'm running like a good amount of platforms. At that time, I was running 3 for home helpers and another 2 for Chris. So that was 5 total pages that I was managing. I mean, that's already a job, and you're getting paid money, so you might as well do it. I mean, I was 17. I couldn't get an LLC at that time. I did. The second I turned 18, registered it, of course. But yeah, I took on a formal business name, PQR Media. And yeah, we just basically started going from there.
So do you have like other people helping, or is this all on your own?
So at that time, it was all on me. The chamber ended up asking for my help again when I ended up quitting, because around that time it was just kind of like a fortunate timing. I ended up forming PQR Media, and the chamber got their summer intern to start basically the same cycle I went through, but with her. And I'm very good friends with Jeff. Jeff is the director of the chamber. He's a great guy. He's really taught me a lot in life. And Jeff proposed me to stick to their social media and manage it. So we set an agreement. I'd run 3 social media pages for the Fort Lee Chamber of Commerce today, and yeah, so that was the 3rd client. And at that time, I figured that I have MList, I have PQR Media. I may want to take a little bit of stress off of me. I mean, this was the summer. During the summer, I lifeguarded and whatnot, but it was a simple job. But I knew college was coming up, so I'm going to have to take somebody on. And at that time, I knew this kid. His name was Ivan. He was very serious guy, it appeared, just because he didn't talk too much, which I think is always a great trait in somebody, because if you don't talk, people don't know you, so they're curious, and it's very interesting to see how they react to that. And Ivan seemed like a very serious guy, and we would hang out. I would explain to him a few things. And one day I was like, hey, let's go have a business meeting. Took him to Starbucks, and we're sitting down. I'm explaining to him what I do. He's like, oh, that's very cool. I was like, would you be able to do that? He's like, yeah, man, of course I would be able to do it. So from that point on, I had Ivan run the entire home helper social media. Later on, I ended up, my mom is a cosmetologist, and she has a lot of clients who, do a variety of stuff. And one of her clients was like, I need somebody to run my social media, whatever, word after another. And I ended up hiring another client. So now I'm sitting at 4 clients, which are all paying me, decent money, enough to live as a, during the summer as somebody who lives at their mom's house. And yeah, me and Ivan were basically a team from that point on. It was the 2 of us. Chris ended up asking me to keep the graduate I was telling you about, Sebi, on the team as a contractor, which I did, just out of courtesy, of course. But Seb's in charge of TikTok, and to this day, those initial 4 remain, and everybody from there on is kind of just a new client.
Awesome, man. I know the listener is just dying to know. This question is not for me; it's for the listener. How have you made money doing this? Like, how much have you made?
Yeah, so
ballpark estimate.
Ballpark estimate. I mean, look, it's a fair question, and
I hate that I have to ask this, but I just think that people are just curious, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask.
Yeah, so I don't count all of my money, to be honest with you, because I do reinvest it back into where it comes from, and I think it's huge to funnel your money that way. I could tell you that PQR Media brings a very solid $2,000 a month, and that number is expected to grow. Like I said, it doesn't take too much out of me. I manage, 2 other projects. I'm also just currently became one of the founding fathers, you could say, of a private aviation management company called Luxor Aviation. And
wait, what's aviation exactly? I'm sorry.
So private jet management is basically what we take care of. So you have a private jet. The jet needs to be managed. We're based out of Bloomington, Indiana right now. We take care of planes in Indiana. And what we do is, the plane needs to be stored in a hangar. The plane needs to be filled up with fuel, maintained. You need a crew for it. It needs to be scheduled, most importantly. And we take all of those problems off your shoulders. So let's say you're a corporation somewhere in Indianapolis.
So this is separate. This is separate from PQR.
Oh, this is a whole new project.
Okay, gotcha.
Currently, there are 3 projects. It's MList, PQR Media, and Luxor Aviation.
So MList is doing donations. PQRs, is it like are your clients paying you a salary, or are they paying like?
They're all under contract. They're paying a marketing fee every month.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, so they're all paying a marketing fee every single month. And Luxor Aviation is still in the process of starting. We're in our lead gen process right now, but the second that starts, management fees start anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
Wow.
For the management of the fee, and of course all of the expenses of the plane are covered by the owners.
So that's good, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great shit, man.
Yeah. So I'm
a college student who's in school. That's impressive, bro.
It's good, but man, all of this is thanks to MList. I mean, perhaps not PQR Media, but of course PQR Media. The entire experience comes from MList. But it's this one singular right move in the pursuit of your hobby is why I think I'm able to get all these things.
And you were doing it for free. You were just providing free value.
Entirely for free. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that you have to work for free in an entrepreneurship world, at least for a little bit, before you start pushing money. Everybody's so hungry to make money right away.
Learn before you earn. I heard that one.
There you go. Hell yeah. Luxor Aviation, the way that worked is when I was around 4,000 followers on MList, I got a DM from an account called Beamer Block. Okay, so I click on it, I check it out, BMW Specialty Auctions. That was a very interesting idea because at that time there were 3 main car auction platforms, period, in the United States. It was Bring a Trailer, which is the largest one, Cars and Bids, which is done by a YouTuber, you may have heard of him, Doug DeMuro. Doug DeMuro is a car reviewer on YouTube, multi-million subscriber channel, and he started his own auction marketplace, which is called Cars and Bids. And then the third one, which was number 3 in size, it's called P Car Market. Initially started off selling Porsches and moved on to kind of just the general German field and beyond. And there was Beamer Block. So, the guy reached out to me. He's like, hey, would you be interested in an affiliate opportunity? And we were very small. We didn't have any affiliates at that time. We didn't have a website. I was using a Linktree and a Google form for my car applications. And I was like, hell yeah, absolutely. I mean, at that time, that was the greatest friggin' day I've had with MList so far. It's very interesting. So I was like, absolutely. He's like, would you be interested in getting on a phone call? We can discuss further details. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was at the chamber at that time. I was in the office, and Jeff wasn't there. So I kind of did all my work, and then I would just hang out, do my personal projects right after. So I get on a phone call with this guy. I don't remember if it was the same day or the day after. But we get on a phone call, and his name was Ali Alani. Ali sounds like this older gentleman, this older voice. Later I found out he was like a junior in college, so it wasn't really that, but yeah. So we started talking with Ali, and we ended up talking on the phone for something like almost 2 hours. Yeah, and it's something that was supposed to be a 15-minute phone call, just kind of explaining how he wants to do it. Ended up being 2 hours, and believe it or not, by the end of that phone call, he proposed me to work with him on the project. Mm-hmm. He proposed me to work with him on Beamer Block. And I definitely saw the idea there. I definitely felt passionate about it. It's very interesting. He ended up hiring me as an auction specialist. Initially, started off very simple. Beamer Block was, just a 2-man job where he built the entire platform. I mean, the guy has a brilliant mind. Brilliant. He built an entire website platform for an auction marketplace. Mind you, this is quoted at anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000 to do. He did it all by himself. Okay, it's so impressive. He had that done, had all of the socials done, entire LLC registered, all of his litigation stuff done.
And he's just auctioning cars, basically.
The way that worked was that charged the fee if you sell. So an auction marketplace, you submit your car for auction. I would review it. I would give you a call. Hey, let me get some more details. every auction that was a real job, because there you have to actually write up descriptions. I had to copyright a lot of information on those cars. I would have to describe them like they were the golden egg, and that was a great experience, but it was a lot of work. So Ali ended up sending me over a work phone, because I had to do a lot of phone calls. So he ended up sending me a work phone. Had a work phone at that point. I would take care of all the calls from there. An application comes in, somebody submits a car, it's free. You submit a car for free. We review it, give you a call, maybe negotiate the price down, because it's an auction, starts off at 0, and then people bid up. And we would have cars on there. We didn't have a great success rate in terms of sales, because for that you do need a lot of volume of people. We tried everything you can. I mean, we tried so many things. Ali has thrown a lot of money into that project, and we were very passionate about it. Later on, we ended up getting another guy on, just on commission. His name is AJ. He's now another partner at Luxury Aviation. And AJ would be on lead gen, I would be on the operation side of things, and Ali would just kind of be the chief executive, looking over everything, taking care of problems. Beamer Block had to shut down at some point due to the lack of funding. We tried to find an investor. Ali almost sold me gifted me his share and had me be a 50-50 partner with the investor, but we didn't have good success finding one, and we ended up just quitting it. So what happened after, I have a connection with Ali, I have a connection with AJ, and by the end of the phone call with Ali, one of the last ones we had about Beamer Block, I told him, Ali, listen, you're a brilliant mind. I would love to stay in business with you. Any other project you have in the future, if you need my help, let me know. I'd be more than happy to join. He's like, you know what? I've been thinking about getting into, the field of aeroplanes. I was like, man, I like the airplanes since I was a kid. So I was like, tell me more. And we started talking. Initially, it was an idea about brokering plane charters. So you would, find planes to charter companies. He ended up visiting an aviation convention in in Las Vegas earlier in 2023, and he basically found out that wouldn't work. You need a certain licensure and other types of stuff for that. There was an easier way to do it, Part 91, which is what we're doing. There's Part 135, which is aircraft charters, highly regulated by the FAA, and then there is Part 91, which is still regulated but much less, and it's a much easier point of entry into that field. So we ended up deciding to do it, kind of talked about all of the ideas that we have regarding the operation side of things, got our agreement set up, figured out what services we're offering, got all of our legalities out of the way, and recently, about a month ago, started our lead gen process. So far, thank God, it's going great. Can't complain about that, but yeah, it's basically a ready business. We have all of our software set up. We have done multiple demos, multiple trainings. Me on the scheduling side, AJ's on the financial, Ali's on the maintenance, and yeah, we're just looking for a lead so far. So if you have a private jet or know somebody, luxuryaviation.com, we've got you.
Dude, that's sick. So what do the responsibilities look like? Like you're finding people to, inspect the plane, manage the plane. Are you finding like pilots, or like how does all that work?
Yeah, so it's very interesting, but I think it can be very overwhelming until you think of it as a game, right? The second you think of it as like, shit, I'm just playing games with airplanes here, but in a very serious way. Of course, it's not playing games; it's people's lives we're talking about. But the second you kind of drop the importance of it, everything becomes much simpler. So yes, you do have to find pilots. You have to employ pilots. Luxury Aviation, we have a variety of offerings in terms of how we can do it. But let's say you don't have a pilot and you have a 2-pilot jet, like a Cessna Citation. You need 2 pilots for that. We hire the pilots for you. You don't have to worry about their payrolls. You don't have to worry about their training. We take care of their training qualifications. We make sure they're qualified to fly that jet. We make sure they go through their training processes and whatnot. Now we have pilots. Next, you have to worry about the maintenance of the aircraft. The aircraft has to be maintained. That's where Ali comes in. Ali's fully on maintenance. Thank God there's a great software called CAMP. CAMP is recognized worldwide as one of the leading maintenance softwares for jets and airplanes in general. So camp takes care of maintenance. The way it works is, your plane needs something replaced or checked on. You confirm with camp. The jet flies to their maintenance facility, or they come out to the hangar where the jet is stored. They check everything out. They confirm it. They record everything on the software, and now you have a confirmed maintenance service done. Next is scheduling, which is perhaps one of the more important things. If you are paying us money to manage your jet, we want to make it as simple as possible for you. So the idea is for you to decide where you're going, when you're going, let us know, and the jet's going to be there. That's it. No questions asked. Your pilots are going to be ready. Your jet's going to be ready, fueled up, ready to go. So let's say you want to fly out of Binghamton Regional Airport. You get on a plane here, you get on your jet, and you're flying to Texas. Let's say today, what day is it? Today, Saturday. Okay, let's say you call me. You'd be calling me. I pick up the phone. I pick up the phone. You call me on Monday. Hey, Pete, we're flying to Dallas on Saturday. We need the jet ready. Okay, great. So I have an entire 3 days to basically get everything in order. I confirm with Ali if we're good on maintenance. We're good on maintenance. Cool. I confirm with AJ, letting him know where we're flying so he can record his financials. And then basically I let the crew know that, hey, on Saturday you got a flight to Dallas, going for 2 days. You'll be back on Monday night. Cool. Great. They're going because that's what they're getting paid for. Now we got that ready. I confirm with the FBO, which is the flight base operator where the jet is stored, that we need the plane ready by Saturday. They prepare the plane. Bang. Now all these people have to do, our clients, they come to the FBO, which is like a private jet terminal. You can think of it that way. They come there, they go through whatever, and then bang, they're on their plane flying to Dallas. Same way back.
So how do you get in touch with all these people, like the people maintaining the plane or the pilots? Like, is it just like cold calling, cold emailing, or how do you build these leads or whatever, build these connections so that you can arrange everything that needs to be arranged for the person to smoothly board their jet?
Yes, I mean, this used to be definitely a lot more difficult, a decade ago even, let's say. Now it's all quite simple. It's all on your computer. You can take care of it from the comfort of your own phone. Pilots have software on their phones that they can just record stuff into. Maybe we provide them a tablet. That's also a popular option for like commercial pilots and whatnot, but they record all of the information needs to be recorded. Maintenance services are taken care of, like I said, from camp.
So you can you can book a pilot like from your phone, basically.
You can, well, if he's hired under your thing, then of course you can.
How do you get him hired under your?
There's different agencies that take care of pilot staffing. So you call an agency, hey, I need a pilot that's certified for this jet. Okay, and they give you available candidates. Then you can conduct your interviews and you hire whoever you want as, a contractor or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, all of it is basically online, which is, like I said, that's why it's so similar to a game and whatnot. But, yeah, basically that's that. Break was great.
Yeah. All right, we're back. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure that it's the right mic. Yeah, it's Blue Snowball. All right. So yeah, quick break, but we are back.
Mm-hmm.
So we just finished talking about the Luxor logistics. So yeah, I mean, you want to talk more about this? Like, what is? Well, I guess a good place to start is it's very. I'm sure it's very overwhelming to have to find all of these people to like. I mean, we kind of scratched the surface of this earlier, but I want to get more into it. I'm sure it's very overwhelming to have to find take care of all these logistical problems, and get everyone involved so that things run smoothly. How do you deal with that uncertainty on a psychological level?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan personally of the idea that you should take your problems at the rate they come in at. So, you don't worry about what's going to be in the future. You worry about what's right in front of you. In terms of problem solving in business, so with Luxor Aviation, our current goal is lead gen. Okay, until we get a first client, until we sign them, we're not worried about logistics too much. That's a problem for later. Okay, because there's always problems in business to take care of, and there's always problems to solve. So I think that focusing on what's important one step at a time and kind of taking steps towards where you want to be is the way to do it. Definitely. it is overwhelming to think about, but like I said, the way I deal with it, I think of it as a game. It's just a game. It's a serious game, but it's a game.
Yeah. So are there ever moments where it's kind of hard to reframe it and remember that, you don't want to be taking it, well, you want to take it seriously, obviously, right. But you remember that it's like, what does that look like when you're, in the, your emotions are getting really wrapped in and you have to remind yourself, like, this is a game. What does that kind of look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that can just be narrowed down to how I look at it on the daily basis, because it is a part of my routine. So every day, I have a certain routine of what I do. So first it's MList, then it's PQR Media, and then it's Luxor or whatever other tasks I have. Luxor is not necessarily something that takes too much time out of my day just yet. I'm sure it will, and I hope it does, because that means we're doing stuff right. But as of right now, it's very manageable. 2 to 3 times a week, it's just lead gen. I love calling people. I love talking to people. I think I get an adrenaline kick out of it when you're calling somebody about their jet. It's not something I've ever done before, so it's very interesting to me. It's fascinating. And yeah, man, I look at it. I don't think about it too much. I thought about it. I know why I do it. I think it's important to know why you're doing anything ever. Right, and like we were talking about earlier, it's important to just be able to wake up at any point during your day, and you should do it, and tell yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and what type of benefit it has. But just kind of figuring that out once, and then just going with the flow for the rest of it is the way, in my opinion.
So for Luxor, do you have people calling you up like, hey, can you get this jet ready, or like, are you reaching out to people?
Not yet. We don't have a signed client yet, so we don't take care of operations just yet.
So you're calling people to try.
We're calling people to try and secure their jet to manage. That's precisely what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, it's just lead gen. I do have people calling me back from my calls. So usually you'll call them. And Indiana, I want to talk about this for a little bit. Indiana is awesome at their customer service. Ali, he lives in Bloomington. He told me they used to have this license plate which highlighted their customer service for the cars. It was like a custom plate. But yeah, it's very nice to call people in Indiana, especially when you compare it to Jersey. In Jersey, you call them up, they are telling you to fuck off on the phone. It's not fun, and that's if they speak English. In Indiana, otherwise, it's been a pleasure calling people. My point though, you usually reach a receptionist or some type of person who works in the lobby, and they try to forward your call. And ideally, you're trying to speak with the CEO because they're the ones who have authority over this jet and what happens to it, or perhaps the CFO. But you're trying to get up there in the ranks, so you try to get their email or you try to get their call. Their cell phone or phone number, and you leave a message. And oftentimes they return this message, so I'll be walking outside on the street, and I'll have to remember quickly what jet it was. And I have an entire spreadsheet of like 300 plus planes that I have to take care of. And so far, I'm at like number 50, but it's still a lot of planes to remember. When they're calling you back, they're like, yeah, so I have this Piper, whatever. And you're just like, oh, yeah, I remember that. You're with this company. And he's like, yeah, so, here's what we got.
So the company will they have jets that they need to basically arrange, and they'll call you to handle that stuff.
Yeah, so it's all for ideally it's for business travel. Mm-hmm. There is a variety of stuff that people do with jets. Some people use it for personal travel. Some people use it for just leisure. Some people use it for stuff like sonar is also a popular thing. But ideally our ideal client would be somebody who uses it for business purposes. That's just usually where we are the most appropriate option. And they from there, that's the goal, to just have them call us, tell us where they need to go, when, and we arrange the rest.
So I think one of the biggest challenges with cold calling and reaching out to people is the fact that you're a lot of the time going to get rejected. And like you said, you're going to have some people who are nice and some people who are like, nah, fuck off.
Yeah.
How do you get comfortable with rejection?
I started reading this great book by Zig Ziglar. What was his name? It's The Secret to Sales. It's a book about sales. If you look his name up, you'll find it. Mm-hmm. But the name was the most memorable part. The guy's name. It's good. And if you listen to the audiobook on Audible, he has the funniest voice you've ever heard. It's great. So one of the biggest points he touched upon. One of the biggest points touched upon is that you cannot allow emotion to be a part of your sales process. You can't. It's not allowed. Because the second you allow emotion in there, now you're a less qualified salesperson, and what you're doing is basically going into the trash can. It's a very emotionless process. I look at it. I don't treat each lead as something personal whatsoever. In the services business, I think it's very important to understand that the client needs you more than you need them. Okay, what you need out of them is financial reimbursement, but what they need out of you is a service, and a service is more valuable than money, in my opinion. So I always look at it from that standpoint, and when I call, I understand that I'm valuable. I try not to, kiss anybody's ass too much, because then you just look a little desperate. I don't enjoy that. So yeah, you just kind of don't treat it way too personal. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with your business.
I'm sure you're feeling anxious though when you're on the phone sometimes, right?
Absolutely, man. It kicks. When you're like looking up, because what I have to do is we have a database from the FAA, and we have to look up, the registered business name, and so I'm not going to go too far into detail, but basically when I get the phone number, I have to call them, and with each ring, my heartbeat just goes up and up and up and up, and I'm like, shit, dude, I am nervous. I mean, there were times where I have to leave a voice message, and I start speaking Ukrainian by accident because I'm so nervous. It's happened before. But yeah, the way I deal with that is I allow myself to feel nervous. Like, you just allow yourself to feel excited. Like you said about sports, you just let yourself do it, and you can do it feeling like that, and it actually starts to feel good at some point. So I think just not treating it as too serious, and kind of telling yourself, like, hey, it's okay. This is all just a game. Yeah, it's okay.
Got you. Yeah, dude, I want to talk about your experience growing up in Ukraine, because we haven't really gotten into that. What was that like? When did you move here?
Yeah, so I was born in Western Ukraine in a city called Uzhhorod. We are right on the border with Hungary and Slovakia, about 10 to 20 minutes away from each. It's a very different part of Ukraine than most people would imagine it to be. The Transcarpathian region, which is what it's called in English, it's a region of Ukraine that was under control of Austro-Hungary, under control of Hungary itself, and a variety of areas around, like Poland. It's not as Ukrainian as you would imagine it to be. The dialect is entirely different. A lot of Ukrainian regions have a different dialect of Ukrainian. It's still Ukrainian, but certain words are different. Like, you go into the mountains, they're speaking a different Ukrainian there than they are in Kiev. You go into where the war is happening, to Donetsk, Lugansk, they're speaking Russian. Okay, and that's just their dialect in a sense. It's not like, they're closer to Russia, so that's why they do it. We're closer to, let's say, my grandma. She lives in this village close to Romania, about 20 minutes away from Romania. And they have words that are, taken from Romanian. A lot of words like yes, it's not a yes in Ukrainian. It's a totally different yes that you would imagine it to be. So I've grown up in a different Ukraine than stereotypically imagined. But it's been awesome, man. I lived there until I was 11. I moved here in 2016. So it's been a good amount of time that I spent here, and I think it was the ideal time to move for me, because I was able to take the fundamentals of a Ukrainian and move here. But growing up there, I mean, look, again, in comparison to what I think I would have grown up to be here, I think I got a huge advantage, because I got, more than half of my life at this point living there. I guess, it's almost equal when you think of it on a conscious standpoint. But point is, it's great to look at it from a Ukrainian eye in America.
Yeah. Well, what is the Ukrainian eye? Or like you sort of mentioned, like, the Ukrainian fundamentals. Like, what are those? So
this is a very interesting topic, because when I moved here in 2016, I was 11 years old, and I started a month in this elementary school in Fort Lee, which I mentioned before, which is considered a very prestigious town in terms of education. So we went for a month there, but then we were forced to move. We were forced to move to one town over. It's called Cliffside Park. Cliffside Park is known for schools that are of a much lower, level than Fort Lee, and the demographic of the school is also very different. There were a lot of Hispanics in Cliffside Park, and I was, an immigrant from Ukraine who no, I didn't really speak too much English, to be honest with you. I could say a few things, but the way I learned in Ukraine, and I would take a lot of tutoring in English in Ukraine. I mean, I've had a gig for languages since I was young. In Ukraine, your second language you take in school is German, and I had a fascination with learning German, so I was pretty good at German. I was taking English for about, I don't know, 4 years or something like that from a young age. So I did have English, but it was British English. So I remember one of the first days I was there, my mom would call me, and somebody looks at my phone and like, why your mom spelled like that? And it was M-U-M. Because that's how I was taught to spell mom, which is okay in England, but when you're in America, they're like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? So, I mean, the way it worked initially, I want to start with School 4 in Fort Lee. Both of them were School 4s. So let's start with the Fort Lee one. They put me in ESL, okay? I could understand what a lot of people were saying, but I couldn't really follow the curricula because I didn't, know science. I didn't really know English that well. I couldn't take it. So they put me in ESL, and in Fort Lee, the ESL was very advanced.
Wait, what is ESL?
ESL is this program that they put you in when you're not fluent in English.
Okay, got you.
So we would have sessions multiple times a week where they would pull us out of class. We would all sit at a round table and we would converse with each other. Just a bunch of immigrants talking with each other in English nobody can understand. But there was, of course, an instructor, and they helped us out a lot. It was great. But the only thing is I didn't interact much with the class. Okay, so when I moved to Cliffside, they also put me in ESL, but the ESL there was so different. The ESL there was maybe once every 2 weeks. It was barely ESL, and I had to do the entire regular curriculum. So after Fort Lee, just being on my computer, playing video games, moving here into Cliffside, it was much harder from an academic standpoint. So I remember that was when I got my first F. I got 28% for a test from science, and I was freaking humiliated because in Ukraine I wouldn't allow myself to get a grade lower than in Ukraine it's out of 12, so a 10 would be the lowest, which is probably an 85 in our system. But yeah, I got a really bad grade. I would cry on my way home. I was like, my mom's gonna beat my ass. What am I gonna do? And I had to make it out. I was forced to make it out, which I think is so great. I think it's so great because later down, I went back to Fort Lee for middle school. So the entire 6th grade I took in Cliffside. I was humiliated in Cliffside. Let's just put it that way. Okay, I would be made fun of, and the only word I knew in English to curse at somebody was from me playing GTA San Andreas back in Ukraine, which was when the character would say bullshit. Okay, and that's the only curse word I knew. So somebody would tell me, they would love to tell me that nobody likes you. They would love to tell me nobody likes you. Go back to your country. I went through so much of that. It was unbelievable. And of course I knew what that means. It's a very simple thing. So I understood it. I would tell them, stop talking, because I didn't know how to say shut up. I didn't even know how to say that. And there was a lot of bullying involved, okay, which I think also helped me a lot, to be honest with you. But I can see how a lot of people break under that. Though, one time, there was this kid, Xavier. I'll never forget Xavier. Xavier was this troublemaker. And Xavier, we were sitting in the library in the basement of the school, and we had some reading class. And Xavier sits next to me. For some reason, they put me next to this kid. I still don't know why, but they put me next to him, and he's looking at me. He's like, yo, nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. He's whispering at me. Nobody likes you, bro. Go back to your country. And I'm like, you are bullshit, man. You are bullshit. The only curse word I knew, I didn't curse before that, but that was the only curse word, and he got so on my nerves, I just started screaming, you are bullshit, bro. I just kept telling him the same thing. They took me to the principal, they tried to get me in trouble. My mom couldn't help, she didn't speak English. More than that, we had to get friends who spoke Russian to come in and advocate on our part for what happened, and it was unbelievable. It was a very difficult experience getting started, but back to what we were talking about, you need this bad experience to feel good in the future. But, being forced to do all these things and being forced to kind of make it out of the mud, as I would like to put it, really helped me get a step ahead in the future. It really did. Though what happened was because of this bullying, it made me feel like I didn't really belong, okay? Because that's what they were aiming for. It made me feel like I didn't particularly belong in this country with my cultures, because I came from Ukraine. Man, I was as Ukrainian as you could be at that time. And don't imagine a stereotypical Ukrainian. I was just a kid who grew up in Ukraine, so all I knew were Ukrainian fundamentals and values and just kind of my culture and traditions, because we're very rich in that. So what happened was, after this, when I moved to Fort Lee, I made it my utmost effort to fit in. It was my only goal to be as American as possible. I remember that I would even lie about being partly Hispanic to fit in better with these kids. I would have to lie about it just so I can fit in, just so they can consider me one of them. I mean, looking back at it now, that's freaking unbelievable. But back then it made perfect sense to me. And I thought that that's the way they were going to, they were going to admit me into their circle. So I made it, did everything I could to become friends with the quote unquote popular kids and, get my clout up. Which is, unbelievable, like high school. But that's what I faced.
Kids go through that, though. Like, it is something, obviously, looking back, I'm sure you think, like, damn, why was I trying so hard to fit in? But, like, as a kid, it's a real dilemma that I think a lot of kids go through.
Yeah. So, I do understand why I was doing that. Do I wish I didn't do that? No. I think it helped me. And what really happened was, for this entire time, since 2016 until 2022, which is 6 years, I did not go back to Ukraine. Certain reasons, we were not able to go back. Mind you, it's just me and my mom here. No other family. Everybody else is on your phone. You got to FaceTime, you got to call them. But nobody else is here. So all that I'm exposed to is this American society. Of course, my accent went away over time. It's still visible here and there, but I think it's much better now. It used to be really bad. I used to be very embarrassed of the accent. I used to be embarrassed to say that I'm Ukrainian. I used to be embarrassed of everything. 2022 winter hits. The war starts. Everybody starts talking about Ukraine. Nobody knew about Ukraine before the war. Dude, people used to say it was Russia. Oh, aren't you Russian? Aren't you Russian? Yeah, something like that. I'm near Russia. I would have to just kind of say that because I'm not explaining geography to a freaking American. They're going to lose their mind. So, I'm joking. I'm kidding.
No problem.
So, the war started and everybody started talking about Ukraine. Now, Ukraine all of a sudden is getting popularity. People know the Ukrainians don't like Russians. Now it's becoming a meme. Whatever. I'm still like on this phase, like, I'm American, but this is my country. So it kind of made me, for once, since 2016, feel empathy for my own country while being here. So that's kind of like the first step that made me feel like, maybe, being American is not all that. But in the summer...
So it made you take more pride in that part of your identity, basically?
Pretty much. But before that, I would do, like I said, everything to mask it as much as possible, to just be one of the members of American society, whatever they are. And I would just look at the majority. That's basically what I would look at the majority of where I was, the majority demographic, and I would try to be like them. I would try to talk like them. I would try to, use their dialect. I would try to find interest in their values. At some point, I would listen to rap only. Only rap and only Spanish music. That is the only thing I listen to. Now I cannot stand it. I listen to Ukrainian music all day long, every day, because that's what I enjoy. But back to that, in 2022, in the summer, my birthday's in August. So for my birthday, my mom was like, hey, we're going to go to Ukraine. I was like, okay, let's do it. We went to Ukraine from the beginning of August to the end. It was a full month that we were in Ukraine, actually through the start of September. When I tell you that was the most revolutionary time of my entire life, it completely did a 180 of my values and what I find important in my mind. I just completely lost interest in everything America. I completely lost it. Man, when we were going to Ukraine, we had to take a more difficult route because of the war. We had to go through Vienna. We had to go through Budapest. We had to go through major European cities. After 6 years of not visiting Europe, I just felt like that was my pot of tea. Man, it felt so good. It felt great. I met awesome people in Austria. I met people involved with BMWs. And I got to drive my dream car by accident flying from Vienna back to America. Just at the airport. I come outside on the phone with one of my friends, and there's a BMW M5 right there. I come up to them. He's like, hey, you want to drive it?
That's sick.
I lost my mind. This guy's name's Kareem. Kareem, I am so thankful for him. I met him later when I went in November in Austria. I also did a stop. I hung out with him the whole day. Some of the best moments of my life happened in Europe within the 6 years that I was here. So the fundamental idea that I got from that trip is that this country, it's an amazing country. I love this country. I think this country brings a load of value to people, but I don't think it is designed at its core to be lived in. A lot of the infrastructure that's here, you can notice it, even when you compare it to any European country. It is less livable. Okay, it is made a lot more from a capitalistic standpoint to where things are just enough to work, but now not more. Okay, so building.
So when you say live, do you mean like physically live, or do you mean like live as in like kind of a work-life balance type thing, or both?
It would be the second option, the work-life balance, a lot more, because a lot of things I hear from like Ukrainian immigrants, and I can't really speak for any other group. Maybe somebody could relate that all you do in America is work. All you do in America is work, work, work. And even when you get to relax, it doesn't feel like you're relaxing. It feels like you're almost just taking a break from work. Okay? Which are two entirely different things. Right now, my mom went to Ukraine for 3 weeks. And she's coming back a new person. And I know it. I know she's going to come here full of energy, full of happiness. And of course, you can say that that's because of her family. But I also think it's just because of the general environment. My goal is make money here, spend it elsewhere. Okay, and that's not from somebody who doesn't want to pay taxes to this country. I'm a tax-abiding citizen. I take care of everything that needs to be given back, of course. But I just think for personal pleasure, you can do it somewhere else. Unless, of course, you enjoy it here. I think America has a lot of great places, but the value you can get for your money, especially in that sense, Europe wins.
Why do you think Europe is more livable?
I think essentially because of their more libertarian take on life. Personally, I used to be a hardcore, like radical conservative. That's changed over time. I don't really take a political opinion now, a far left or far right. I'm open-minded as much as possible. I think college has actually impacted me a lot in that sense, just because of how much I see people supporting different values that I didn't think anybody supported in the past. But in any other case, point is, Europe is a lot more libertarian, so a lot of what they do is not for the maximization of profit. Here, a majority of what you do is for the maximization of profit. Like we were talking about before, with MList, a lot of my friends don't understand why I'm doing it or how I'm motivated to do it, because they're like, where's the money in that? You're not making any money. What's the point? What are you doing? You're wasting time. I don't think so. I mean, look at Italy. You got siesta. Who the hell is going to let you have a siesta in America? You're wasting time. You should be working. Nobody's letting you do that.
Wait, what's a siesta?
A siesta is when you go to sleep in the afternoon. So you're.
Oh yeah. I went to Italy over my spring break last year, and I remember because in America I'm so used to, like you were saying, everybody's like always in work mode.
Yeah.
And then so we went to Rome. We went to Sorrento, which was like on the coast, and then we went back to Rome. And we get to the hotel to check in. And in America, I'm used to you go right to the front desk. You give them your name, your reservation, whatever, and then you instantly you go to your room, get figured out.
Right.
So we get to this hotel in Rome, and the guy at the front desk is just napping. He's just sleeping, and it seems like such a small thing, but to me this was like eye-opening. It's like, damn, my whole life I've grown up in this culture where everything is so fast. Like I'm from New York City, so I know like exactly the type of vibe that you're describing.
Yeah.
So I go to Rome and we go to check in at this hotel, and the guy's just napping. He's just sleeping at the front desk, and we had to like wake him up to check into our room and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, that for some reason that moment was so eye-opening to me.
Yeah. I think this goes back to core values. Relatively speaking, America is a pretty young country. It's a pretty young nation, although not as young as some. But in terms of tradition, they didn't have as much time to build that up as some countries in Europe. And I think, of course, Ukraine's not a part of the European Union, but it is the center of Europe. I mean, a few hours away from the village where my grandma lives is the actual geographical center of Europe. It is located in Ukraine. So the fact that it hasn't been recognized because it's a post-Soviet country, that's another story. We're not going to get into politics here, but the point is, most of the countries here have values, okay, and they live by them. In America, I think it is the greatest country in the world for opportunity, period. There's no better country that brings you more opportunity, more options as the United States of America. You can do anything you want here, and I think it's perfect for the pursuit of your hobby, because somewhere like Germany, it is probably a little more difficult to pursue a hobby of yours in a financial sense than it is in America. America is just built for it, and this idea that everything is made for the maximization of profit, it's perfect for this. But if you want to take a step back and relax and enjoy, it is so much more difficult to do it here. And I think a lot of Americans who were born here, and just the trend I've been noticing, I mean, I have a friend lives in rural Pennsylvania. He, he's grown up in what's frankly a forest. It's a community, but it's very separated from humanity. So his family, his father's a veteran. His mom, I'm not sure what she does. Also works like a cleaning service or something. But basically, a very very middle class family. I don't want to call them lower class, but it's a middle lower class. I question myself. Look, he's grown up here. He has a clear understanding of people's values around him. He can play off of that so easily. One of the more difficult things for me is knowing precisely what to say sometimes in certain situations, because I don't know how an American will react to that. I just have to kind of second guess. But he has a fundamental understanding of that. I mean, it is just the default to him. Why can't he play off of that? Well, because he's too comfortable. It's way too comfortable to do something else. I think the thing that a lot of immigrants have that Americans don't is the hunger. It's the hunger for money. It's the hunger for success, the hunger for something. A lot of people grow up here, they're way too comfortable. Which is great, because it's great to make money off of them. But in the sense of just personal opportunity, it's very misfortunate, I think. So, make money here, spend it elsewhere. That's my motto.
Do you think the fact that you went through the bullying stuff that you were talking about contributed to that sense of hunger that you feel now?
No. What contributes to that sense of hunger is seeing my mom's strength and coming to this country at, how old was she? 37, 36 years old. She came to this country. I grew up without a father since I was 4. My mom left everything she's built in Ukraine for her entire life at that point, and she just dropped it and said, hey, I'm going to a new country.
Yeah.
She took me, and then she ended up, building what's today a very successful cosmetology business. I was like, look, if she could do it, not only do I have the genes to do it, I'm going to do it 20, 30, 50 times better. Yeah. Okay, and it's just this understanding that, hey, if it's not me, then it's nobody else. Nobody else is giving it to me. Nobody else is handing it to me. It's all in my personal hands.
Yeah. So
it's all mine.
I'd be curious to hear about your experiences growing up in a single-parent household, because I was actually, I don't think we've talked about this yet, but I was born through sperm donation, actually. So okay. My mom's a single mom, never had a father figure. So I think we can kind of relate to each other in that sense, that we've both had, for the majority of the majority of your life, the entirety of mine, we've grown up in single-parent environment. Yeah. What has that been like for you?
I credit my mom a lot for this. Maybe not as enough as I should, but I definitely do in my own mind. She has done a great job at being both the father and the mother. She's been telling me recently that was kind of like her goal and why she's been so cold at times. But I'll give you an example. In Ukraine, I was maybe 4th grade. Like I said, the grades were out of a 12-point system. And this is 4th grade. I'm almost like moving into a bigger school and whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not motivated to work. I'm not motivated to do schoolwork. I'm not motivated to study. I'm like yapping during the class and whatever. And I ended up getting my first 2 points out of 12. That's a fail. That's an F. And yes, my mom, comes in to pick me up after school. And my teacher of the class, we had one, like you would in elementary school. She's like, Miss Szlivics, can you please stay for a moment? So everybody leaves. It's just me in this classroom and my mom talking to the teacher. So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, shit's going down. Something's going down.
Yeah.
And the teacher starts telling her, well, Peter doesn't want to study. Peter is losing interest to school. Peter, we don't know what to do with him. He's getting bad grades. Here, he got a 2. He used to be a great student, and now he's just losing interest. You got to do something about it. We get home in silence. My mom is not talking to me. We get home in silence. She sits me down. She's like, go sit in the living room. I sit in the living room. I'm like, Mom, I can explain. It's okay. It's okay. It's all going to be fixed. It's no big deal. She's like, you got a 2. Did I tell you what's going to happen when you get a 2? I'm like, yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. She starts crying. She starts crying. She's like, "You're a disappointment. I'm growing you. I'm raising you for what? For you to get twos? You're a disappointment." I mean, I'm a kid. I'm not really getting it, but I'm like seeing her cry, which is kind of, what I'm getting. So she's like, "I don't know what to do with you. I'm calling your dad." They're divorced now for a while. They don't talk. A very like cold relationship between them two, and I know all that. So she calls him, and she's like, his name's Ivan. She's like, "Ivan, I don't know what to do with your son anymore. He doesn't want to study. Take him back. He's getting twos. Take him back for me. I don't need him." My dad's like, "Well, he's getting fucking twos. I don't need him either. I don't need this guy. What am I gonna do with him? He's getting bad grades." So I don't know if this was like a joke or what, or if this was just like a way to make me want to study, but
traumatize you into studying.
This is where it gets interesting. She's like, "Go get in the car." I got off the phone with my dad. "Go get in the car." Okay, I go in the car, I get in the back seat. At that time, she bought a brand new Nissan Juke. It was red, and in Ukraine, we have a pretty decently small city. At that time, 120,000 people, which is like a mediocre city in Ukraine, but by no means big. So every new car is like, pretty highlighted. We're driving this red Nissan Juke. If you want to look it up, it was 2014 or so, or maybe a little older. Basically, point is, where are we driving, Ma? I keep asking her, Ma, where are we going? Where are we going, Ma? And I'm freaking out. I'm bugging. I'm like, she just disowned me. My dad disowned me. What's going on? I'm not putting two and two together here. Is it going to be 5 or something? So she's driving me. And we drive into this part of town with a lot of garages. And in Ukraine, you have these areas where there's one-story garages from the Soviet Union where, people would buy garages and store stuff there, maybe their car. They had like a little basement. And we're driving into here, and the road ends, asphalt ends. Now we're going through this crazy road. And we drive, and I'm like, "Ma, where are we?" I'm freaking out. She stops the car. About 30 seconds goes by, and from the behind of these garages start swarming gypsies. In Ukraine, we have a lot of gypsies. Not a lot, but we have a good amount of gypsies. And like I said, we're by Romania, we're by Hungary and Slovakia. And if you drive into any of these countries, on their outskirts of smaller cities live a lot of gypsies. They have their gypsy camps. So she drove me to a gypsy camp in Uzhhorod. Okay? And I mean, gypsies, they're everywhere. Like, you could be at a train station, a gypsy will come up to you, a baby gypsy. He'll be like, "Please give me money, I'm starving." You'll have to give him some money. You feel bad. So she drives me into a gypsy camp, and I'm like, "Okay, we're at the gypsy camp." Woo-hoo. So they start swarming the car. I mean, hundreds of them, dude. Unbelievable picture. And out of this swarm of gypsies starts walking the Baron. And the Baron's like the head of the gypsies. He takes care of everything. All of the gypsies bring money to him. At the end of the day, he distributes it. He's walking with gold teeth, okay, a gold walking stick. I mean, imagine a fat Baron, like clean and like dark hair, all gold teeth. Like, you would call them grills. Rappers that have grills, those are no grills. Those are gypsy teeth. Just so you know, brother. That's where it came from. He's walking out. He's walking towards the car. My mom opens the window. She's talking to Baron now. He's like, "Ma'am, what are you doing here?" She tells him, "Well, I brought my son to you. He doesn't want to study. He doesn't want to do schoolwork. I don't know what to do with him anymore." I'm fucking tripping balls in the back. I mean, I am bugging out, dude. I am surrounded by gypsies. They're looking into the windows of the car. They're looking down, and I'm hiding. I'm hiding like under the seats, literally. I like bent myself over so they can't see me, and they're still looking at me. And I just see these baby gypsies, like children, looking into here. They're all dirty. They have, dirty faces. They haven't been washed. Man, my mom's telling him, he doesn't want to study. He doesn't want to do good in school. I don't know what to do with him. Take him away from me. He starts talking to her. He's like, "Okay, you know what we do with kids like that?" He points behind him. On top of one of the garages is a huge metal water tower. Okay, a huge metal water tower. I mean, really big. And it's all rusted. It's old and shit. He points at it, and I'm looking out. He points at it, and he's like, "You see that tower over there? We put kids into there, and we marinate them in pickle juice for a year." Yo, when I heard that, bro, I straight up, like, my entire world just went blank. I was like, "Okay, I'm getting fucking marinated. That's it. That's the end of my life. That's how I'm going to end it." And he says, "Yeah, we marinate them in pickle juice, and then we take them out a year later." I didn't understand what that was even all about, but okay, whatever. That sounds horrifying when you're in 4th grade. You don't want to be marinated in pickle juice, all right. So I start crying, Mom, I'll study. I promise you I'll study. Mom, I just start hysterically crying. I remember that. And the guy looks at me, he's like, ma'am, give him one more chance. If he doesn't, bring him back. We know what to do with kids like that.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
Cooper, since then, there hasn't been a single time I've gotten a bad grade until I moved to America and I got that 28. I am telling you, bro, it was a lesson. But that's what I mean. My mom managed, without being like manly, just raised me in a way like a mom and a dad would, and I grant her so much respect for that.
Dude, that is an incredible story, bro. That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years old, dude. You wouldn't expect that from a 4-year-old's mind, but sorry, fourth grade.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, 4th grade.
You're good, man. Yeah, no, it's interesting because the experience that I had growing up in a single parent household was different because you were saying your mom is kind of like trying to balance the masculine and the feminine sort of role as a parent. Yeah. My mom was like, first of all, she works her ass off. Like she's always grinding, supporting for the two of us. Trying to send me to the best possible school, send me to college, obviously. And that sort of resulted in her being kind of hands-off as a parent. Like she was, a lot of her attention was going to the workplace because she had to make money, obviously. Yeah. And she had to be the breadwinner, which she did very successfully. And I ended up kind of, especially like in middle school and high school, I spent a lot of time on my own. Not to like an unhealthy extent, but I think a lot of kids, come home to their siblings, they come home to their mom, dad, whatever. I was coming home and I had the house to myself, and I just, I had to, be self-motivated. That was a big thing. I didn't have somebody there busting my balls, telling me to do my homework, telling me to, go get some exercise, telling me to get off the video games or whatever it was. I had to be motivated to do that myself. And now, I think for a lot of people, this would not go well because I think there are a lot of kids who don't have the, natural conscientiousness to, get themselves to grind when nobody's telling them to do it. But luckily for me, I'm not a perfect person by any means. I have tons of flaws, but being, a conscientious person who is self-motivated isn't. Luckily, I'm, I consider myself a pretty hardworking industrious person. Yeah. And I think being in an environment where I had to control how hard I worked led to me being more intrinsically motivated because I think a lot of people derive their sense of motivation externally because they have, people in their immediate family who have high expectations for them. Mm-hmm. But for me, my mom, she wanted me to do my best, but she wasn't particularly concerned with what grade I got. And again, I'm not saying this is like the right way to parent. This is just what it was. Yeah. For better or for worse. She was concerned with my effort. As long as I was, putting in work, everything else, she was kind of accepting of. If I did my best, I did my best. Grades are grades, results are results. Yeah. And growing up in that environment, although I think, like I said, for a lot of people would have backfired, for me it ended up working pretty well because I learned to be the one to push myself. Like because I didn't have somebody else constantly pushing me, that led to me, being the one to, kind of tell myself I got to get this done. I also had to be the one who sort of like reflected because, I think a lot of people who grow up in big families, they get a lot of inputs from like siblings, parents, fathers, whatever. For me, I only had like one other person in my immediate family. So when shit went wrong in my life, I had to really step in and try to figure out what it was that went wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to share that because I think it's interesting to hear kind of our, similar perspectives in the sense that we both have. Do you have any siblings?
I don't, bro.
Yeah. So we're both growing up in single parent, only child households, but also slightly different parenting styles with, and obviously it's slightly different because you had your father figure early on. I did. Is he? And I don't know. Is he still a part of your?
No, we're not in touch whatsoever. There were attempts, but it didn't ever work out successfully. And I'm very glad it didn't because it's not somebody I would want in my life as an influence at all. Although I am in touch with his parents, so my grandparents.
Interesting.
But there were, a few different actors throughout me growing up. Like my mom's, boyfriends and whatnot, people she's had relationships with. She was married again when we moved to America. She was married one more time. That also ended quickly, relatively. It just whatever happens. I think this can be tied very well, especially your example, that you can find strength in any situation. There are people who would look back at your situation and say, man, these are all negatives. I grew up without a father. I don't even know him. I didn't spend much time with my sibling. I didn't have siblings. These are all negatives. It makes me a bad person. The second you do that, that's it. That's it. You're stuck in this loop of constant negativity.
It's a victim mentality.
It's a victim mentality, and so many people fall to it because it is so easy. It is so easy. It's comfortable. It's when you tell yourself that, no, these are all strengths. This makes me unique. This is who I am. This is my experience.
Yeah, I also think it's easy to fall into that because it takes the responsibility out of your hands. It's like, oh, shit, bad situation, nothing for me to do, But when you say, nah, these things can be turned into positives, now you have responsibility to do that.
And it's like that with every single thing you do in life, bro. Every failure, every negative, every single thing. The second you start looking at things from a negative standpoint, everything turns red. Second you start looking at it from a good standpoint, you force yourself to do it, man, you're on the wave of success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure, man. All right, dude, I think that will be enough for the episode, bro.
It's been a pleasure.
I think that was awesome, bro. Great conversation. Just incredible.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Hell yeah.